Hey guys, and welcome to this answers video. I'm going to be answering most of the questions that people asked on my Ask video, which I'll link in the description. If I didn't get to your question in this video, I'll probably just answer them in the comments of the Ask video itself if I haven't already. So let's just get right into it. Kuppa Wolnir, aka Mega Deuce, asks, do you use the Furus much? If so, do you prefer it with a base fire rate for accuracy, or do you prefer to spray? Well, the main advantage of the Furus, of course, is its Winds of Purity augment, which allows for lifesteal, and it goes by how much damage you're actually doing. So obviously you want to be accurate with it, usually for health, so hitting the head so you can deal double damage and get double health. But do I actually use it much? Not really, not anymore. I used to use it all the time. It used to be basically a required secondary weapon for me. Oscar Vera asks, well then, why Darth Muffin? Well, originally I made the name way back in 2010 on my other YouTube channel. I was just deciding, you know, what I should do on YouTube, and I just randomly came up with the name Darth Muffin, and the image was literally a picture of Darth Vader I found online, and I basically photoshopped a muffin over the face, and I put a cape and a spatula on it with the Windows MS Paint on my XP, really old Windows XP computer, and it's Darth Muffin with one F, by the way, because when I tried to do Darth Muffin with two F's on YouTube, it was already taken. So it makes me a little bit more unique, since there are like Darth Muffins with two F's out there, but that's not me. James Rogers asks, have you made a quote traumatic redirection Arcane Grace / Avenger Chroma for self-buffing and infinite health regen? Most damage is 100,000. Try it. No, because I don't have a single arcane, because I have still yet to even try a Law of Retribution at all, because I usually don't play high level content, and when I do, I use like a Tiger's Prime or take advantage of Valkyr being invincible for a little while, that sort of thing. So I don't really feel the need for arcane mods, and I don't buy platinum anymore. So I mean, like what, 1,000 or 2,000 platinum for a full set just so I gain. I mean, it's good, it's powerful, but I don't think I'm gonna waste that much money on it. Lourdes asks, are you an official Warframe community channel? No. While it would be nice to be funded or supported by Digital Extremes for what I do, I'm just a regular old YouTuber that just does videos on my own time. Asks, which weapon in Warframe do you think is in most need of a buff / rework? Well, all the weapons that I put on my Can I Has Buff playlist, which I'll link in the description as well, all the weapons on that list are weapons that I think that should need buff. I don't think there is one weapon that needs buff for sure. I mean, obviously what comes to mind is either the Lado or Bratton, but since they're starter weapons, they're supposed to kind of be weak, so I don't think they need a buff themselves. So yeah, if you want to know which weapons I want buffed or reworked in the game, just check out that playlist. Jewman64 asks, how does it feel to be the last bastion of hope in the Warframe YouTube community? Well, I'm flattered you think that highly of me, but I don't think that highly of myself. I'm glad you find my content interesting, or you think I'm unique, because that's my goal. But in the end, I don't think of myself as anything special. So if you like my content and you keep sticking around, well, that makes me feel good about myself. That's all I need. RJC Maxification asks, what games, if any, do you play regularly other than Warframe / I know you play Starbound? And he has actually two questions. I'll answer both. Well, I have a few games on my computer, but the ones that I'm usually playing now, besides Warframe and Starbound, is Fallout 4 and The Sims 4. I have a few other games like Sims 3, Minecraft, but I usually don't play them anymore because I've kind of got bored of them. So yeah, gosh, I hope I pronounce this right. Mikkel Steen Solly asks, what do you hate and what do you like most in Warframe? I don't think I hate anything. That's a pretty strong word to describe anything in this game. If I hated anything in Warframe, I probably wouldn't play it. But I suppose the strongest thing I could say is I dislike how the developers handle some things. Like recently, sometime in January, I contacted DE Steve about a bug where Adhesive Blast wasn't working properly on the Tsar. For all of the weapons, it not only made it stick, but it dealt a little bit of damage and a little bit of procs as it was stuck, which made it actually ultimately secretly a little bit better than people had said it was. So anyway, a month after I tell DE Steve about it, they actually just nerf it, because apparently it was unintentional that it did extra damage. So now the weapon just sticks. So if I'd say I hate something, I'd probably say I hate how the developers act like that. Like you would think they realized that even when the Adhesive Blast was quote unintentionally bugged, it was still crap. Like, it was fun to use and it made the weapon a little better, but it was still ultimately crap. But they still nerfed it. It's like they don't play their own game. And like most about Warframe, it's a game that I never really get too bored of. There's so much diversity that you can never really get bored. You'll only get bored if you're the kind of person that only thinks that the end game is just trying to kill the highest level enemy possible with the best gun possible, and mashing keys to get the perfect Warframe build and stuff like that. Like, you'll only get bored when you do that kind of stuff. Hyphus asks, in a pretty long question, in the context of shotguns, we understand that shotgun status chance is split between pellets, so in terms of effectiveness against Corpus, is using base toxin damage to bypass its shield more preferred rather than going with gas and punch through for crowd effectiveness, or you have an answer of your own? Well, for most of the time, I usually never deal with toxin or gas against Corpus. It's usually viral and radiation, and I don't see usually anyone doing this. I usually never use toxin because while it does bypass shield, you can't really get the damage that high, and then it doesn't do any additional damage to Corpus MOAs and Versus specifically. So I usually go with viral because it does. I think now I think about it, I think toxin is 25%, but so does viral damage. And viral damage has a proc where it halves their health. So not only does it deal more to their health, it also halves the health, and then radiation does bonus against MOAs, as well as the crowd control of them fighting each other, which is really helpful. And against Corpus, obviously, what you're going to do is you're going to use impact weapons. So the impact usually covers most of the shield. So while you do have to kind of brute force it, you have to get through the shields before you can get to the health. It's usually not an issue if the weapon's impact. So I guess that's my answer. Dogue Prime asks, favorite Bootyframe? I mean, obviously my answer is Nova, and the normal Nova, of course. I mean, look at this. Come on, guys. There's no competition here. Legionary Hunter asks, do you think DE are going to nerf Memesing Strike? Obviously, I think he means Memesing Strike. In a way, I kind of hope they do, just because I'm tired of seeing people with Telos Boltors and stuff just sliding around the entire mission. It gets a little old. But in the terms of is it so overpowered that they're gonna nerf it? I don't think so. I highly doubt it. Ricky the Pigeon asks, do you think Artwing would be a good implementation to sorties? Hell no. Put aside the rush mission modes where you're constantly slamming into walls with the stupid new, I guess you could say, quote, realistic movement that basically screwed me over. Because how I played, the old system worked perfectly for me. So do you think Arcwing would be good implementation of sorties? Hell no. And I really hope they don't actually implement it. RBG Joe asks, crit or status on primary and why? Well, I mean, obviously it depends on if the weapon has crit or not. I guess I'll run down basically what I consider to be a crit weapon. If it's an assault rifle, 10% is enough for me. Like, people say, oh, it's not really that great. I mean, but I've used a few weapons with 10% crit chance. I recently did a crit build. I just threw together a quick crit build on the Kohm to see if it was any good, and it actually did better than just a raw damage build. Despite the raw damage build having like what, 500 or something more viral damage, it was pretty significant, but it still beat it. So I guess it depends on the weapon. Ridham Ismu asked, what's the resource image you use for your profile pic? I'm guessing it's Lotus and the Settlement guy. Also, what's your favorite underrated weapon? Yes, indeed, it is the Lotus and the Settlement guy, Preston Garvey. I basically got the idea because during the time people were still kind of laughing at the Preston Garvey meme where he's like, go to the settlement, there's a settlement need every 5 seconds. The Lotus kind of does the same thing. She pops up and says there's a new alert available, and sometimes it's a rescue target. So it's in the kind of the same vein, so I got the bright idea of just combining the images. And Fraz, what is your favorite underrated weapon? I'm assuming you mean underrated by it's not really liked by the community, but it's actually pretty good. I'd say the Tysis. The Tysis gets a lot of flack for being kind of crap, and I guess it's because it's slow. It's one of the few weapons in the game that isn't like a Dread or a Lanka that can actually take advantage of gas damage and deal decent damage. Evad versus asks Tysis or Pox? Tysis for sure. I never liked throwing weapons, and while the Pox is pretty powerful and kind of fun to use against crowds, the fact that it doesn't stick to enemies kind of throws it off for me, because I mean they throw really slowly. And the Tysis is fun because, as I just mentioned in my previous comment, it's actually pretty powerful. It's not god tier, but with a Riven it surely would be. So yeah, I guess I have a lot of fun with a gas cold Tysis. Daniels asks, what are you hoping for in the Limbo rework? Do you think it can get worse than it already is? Yes and no. I think that most likely what they're gonna nerf and also buff him. They're gonna buff him by probably do something where it limits the grievances of him, so like players can pick up ammo or something like that. But at the same time, I'm sure they're gonna make it so he's also not invincible anymore. Anyone who seriously played Limbo has known that while he is pretty weak out in the open, he can become extremely powerful through the Rift. I mean, bonus damage a significant amount if you build him for strength. So you can actually go into the Rift and hide, target really high level enemies with like a good melee weapon or a rifle or something, and you can really take out heavy units. You can survive. You can probably survive longer than a Valkyr because you're slowly gaining energy through the Rift. Especially with an efficiency build, and then you use your Zenuric energy passive. I'm predicting that it's going to be kind of half and half. It's going to be a buff, but it's also going to be a nerf. And finally, Texan Scrublord asks, what is your opinion on the non-event status of Conclave? I've always sucked against player versus player, and Conclave and Warframe's no different. I found that basically the only way I can really survive is spam, and I've had some fun, don't get me wrong. I've had lots of fun. I've done a couple of the events, and I've played decently well with a Vauban and like a Kraken and a Gorgon. So while I think I see potential in it, I don't think it's worth playing at the moment. Like the recent events with the like from Christmas up, I played one of the snowball fight and then I just stopped because I just hated it. I didn't see the point in it, because usually what I'd have to do to survive is literally just spam keys, spam bullet jump, run around, you know. I think I won once, so I got some points or whatever, but ultimately I think Conclave sucks because they kind of took out the solo rail stuff, because before you'd play these fairly decent missions. I remember them hyping this up where it'd be like with Spectres on the other team with other players, and you'd be in space and there'd be turrets, and while they kind of did this for a while, they took it away because the whole solo rail stuff was getting a little old. Like, people would be attacking like instantly, so basically they did the armistice where they can't attack anymore. But I think that was one of the few things that I did have fun with, because I did play a few of those and I liked that. I think one of the main buffs that Conclave could get to make it fun for me is big, huge matches where you play, instead of Tenno, instead of Warframes, you play as Spectres. You control Spectres, like you control a Lancer on one team against Tenno Spectres on the other team. So basically, I mean, it would be lore friendly as well, because we've shown that, or the developers have shown that Tenno can basically transport themselves to Warframe, so it's not unheard of or silly to think that they might be able to transfer their consciousness, at least temporarily, to a Spectre. So huge maps where you're playing as normal enemies instead of bullet jumping Tenno, I think that would make it a little bit more fair and a lot more fun, because it would change it up. Instead of you always playing as Tenno, you're always playing it in Artwing. You know, it shakes it up to give it a different game mode, so you feel a little bit more vulnerable. So yep, that's it. I hope I answered most of the questions. There might have been a few that I missed. I'll probably just answer them like I said on the Ask video itself. So yeah, thanks for watching.
I won't lie. This is definitely me